The Alaska wilderness stretches endlessly, a frozen labyrinth of snow, pine, and shadows. Silence dominates, broken only by the crunch of snow under boots, the distant groan of ice along a riverbank, or the whispering wind threading through the trees. This vast, isolated expanse is unforgiving. And yet it is here that Robert Hansen prowled, a predator cloaked in ordinariness. To the outside world, he was a polite, quiet baker, friendly to neighbors and consistent in routine. But in the woods, in the frozen labyrinth beyond the safety of town, he transformed into a hunter of humans. Hansen's first victim of this sequence is young, vulnerable, and unsuspecting. She leaves Anchorage, responding to the lure of money, companionship, or a small promise of escape from her daily struggles. She steps into Hansen's car, the door closing with an ordinary click, masking the extraordinary terror about to unfold. The drive is unremarkable, calm, and almost soothing. But every mile carries her further into isolation, further from help, and deeper into Hansen's meticulously constructed domain of fear. The moment they leave the road and enter the dense forest, the environment shifts. The crunch of snow underfoot becomes an oppressive reminder of distance from civilization. Trees loom like silent sentinels. Rivers, half frozen, glint in the weak sunlight. Obstacles that she will have to navigate if she wants to survive. The cold bites at her face and fingers, frost forming along eyelashes, snow seeping into clothing, each step draining energy and will. Hansen watches from a distance, patient, silent, calculating each movement. Once released, the hunt begins. The victim must navigate terrain designed to confuse, disorient, and exhaust. Every sound, the snap of a branch, the whistle of wind, raises the possibility of Hansen's approach. Every shadow becomes a threat, every tree a potential hiding place for the predator. The fear is constant, omnipresent, a slow-burning terror amplified by isolation. She stumbles through drifts of snow, lungs burning, muscles screaming, panic alternating with brief flashes of hope that she might evade him. But Hansen's tracking is precise. Years of experience with firearms and hunting animals translate seamlessly to stalking humans. The forest itself is a participant in the hunt, amplifying helplessness, obscuring vision, and constraining choices. Hours stretch into an eternity. Hunger gnaws, frost numbs, and exhaustion weighs down each step. Hansen closes the distance with quiet, deliberate patience, forcing compliance not through immediate violence, but through psychological terror. He fires his rifle nearby, the crack of the shot echoing through the trees, a reminder of his presence and power. Every instinct screams to run, yet the forest is a trap, a maze of snow, ice, and tree trunks. Her heartbeat pounds in her ears, each breath becomes visible in the frigid air, a marker of her vulnerability. When capture seems inevitable, Hansen alternates threat with manipulation. Calm, measured tones encourage compliance, promising survival or temporary reprieve only to escalate fear again moments later. Mirrors of control are constructed in his mind. Paths blocked, snow concealing his approach, prey too exhausted to predict escape. Each release and recapture is a game of dominance, an exercise in exercising control over human movement, fear, and willpower. The forest stretches endlessly, a maze of white and green, where snow drapes heavily over branches and the ground shifts with hidden ice and treacherous roots. Every step is a struggle. Boots sink into deep drifts, feet numb with cold, each movement an exercise in endurance. For Hansen's victims, the forest is both prison and trap. There is no safety, no landmarks, only the relentless presence of isolation and the awareness that their predator watches, waits, and plans each step of the hunt. Hansen's methods are chillingly methodical. He releases victims into the wilderness with minimal guidance, letting exhaustion, disorientation, and the cold sap strength and hope. He observes from a distance, hiding behind trees or terrain, his eyes sharp, calculating, patient. The wind carries his prey's scent. Their tracks are obvious in the fresh snow, and his firearms lie ready, a tool to maintain psychological dominance. Every step the victim takes is anticipated. Every panic-driven choice is absorbed into Hansen's strategy. Some victims attempt to flee toward rivers or steep inclines, thinking these barriers might prevent pursuit. The terrain, however, works against them. Icy waters slow their pace, rocks hidden beneath snow twist ankles, branches whip across faces and hands, and the very scale of the forest disorients. Hansen uses this environment as an extension of his control. The wilderness amplifies terror, isolating the victim from any hope of rescue. Snow muffles footsteps and hides escape routes, but it also leaves tracks, a breadcrumb trail Hansen reads with deadly precision. One young woman collapses in exhaustion, lungs burning, skin numb, and vision blurred from cold. Every instinct screams to run, yet the energy to move fails her. Hansen approaches silently, noting her panic and fatigue. He fires near her, not to hit, but to terrify, a crack of sound echoing through trees, reminding her of powerlessness. The forest itself feels alive, a participant in the hunt. Every gust of wind, every swaying tree branch enhancing fear. Hansen's manipulation is both physical and psychological. He alternates patience and threat, observation and interaction, creating a rhythm designed to break resistance. Victims report a terrifying clarity during these hunts. The forest becomes a sensory trap, with sounds amplified, distances distorted, and every shadow carrying potential danger. Psychological terror is constant. There is no respite, only the pressure of relentless pursuit. Hours bleed into days. Victims face hunger, frostbite, and deep fatigue. Limbs shake uncontrollably, teeth chatter, lungs burn with each desperate breath. Hansen's control is not only over their bodies, but over the perception of time itself. He structures fear, ensuring that every moment stretches, every choice feels weighted with consequences, and every movement is constrained by his calculated presence. Amid this, survival becomes a game of wits. Some victims hide in snow-covered underbrush, pressing bodies into cold earth to avoid detection. Some attempt shallow rivers, hoping for concealment in icy currents. Every decision is fraught with danger. Wrong turns, false assumptions, or even brief missteps may bring them into direct confrontation with Hansen. Yet even amid terror, moments of strategy and courage emerge.
small acts of resistance that, though exhausting, plant the seeds of survival. The wilderness itself is both ally and adversary. Trees provide cover but also block vision. Snow hides tracks but slows movement. Rivers can hide a body temporarily but create dangerous obstacles. Every element of the environment amplifies fear while testing resilience. Hansen, ever methodical, uses these natural tools as extensions of his control, turning the Alaskan landscape into a stage for terror and psychological dominance.
Anchorage, in the late 1970s and 1980s, is a city on the edge of wilderness, where urban life blends with the sprawling Alaskan frontier. Missing women reports trickle in sporadically at first, dismissed as voluntary disappearances or accidents. But gradually, patterns begin to emerge. Investigators notice common threads: young women, often marginalized, last seen near the city, but vanishing without a trace. The pieces do not yet form a clear picture, but the threads hint at a predator with a methodical approach and intimate knowledge of both city and wilderness. The investigative process is painstaking. Officers interview friends, family, and neighbors, piecing together timelines and sightings. Witnesses describe women seen entering cars or leaving areas they normally would not. Each account adds texture, but connecting these fragments requires patience and ingenuity. Investigators map last known locations, overlaying roads, forests, and Hansen's daily routines, searching for correlations between disappearances and areas of accessibility. The scale of Alaska's wilderness complicates matters. Snow erases tracks, forests hide evidence, and rivers carry clues far from the origin. Hansen's dual life works against the investigation. By day, he is a benign, polite baker, visible and familiar to the community. By night, he vanishes into the wilderness with abducted women, leaving no immediate evidence. His meticulous planning ensures few witnesses to the abductions themselves. But subtle patterns begin to emerge. His victims often had connections to the city's red light areas, and their absences coincide with periods when Hansen is unaccounted for. Investigators begin to triangulate these patterns, creating a map that slowly reveals his hunting grounds. Forensic work becomes critical. Abandoned personal items, discarded clothing, and shallow snow prints provide clues that are painstakingly analyzed. Tracks in snow, disturbed underbrush, and even subtle deviations in forest paths become data points. Investigators document everything, constructing a pattern of predation with the painstaking patience of a hunter themselves. It is a game of strategy. Every piece of evidence is a breadcrumb, every observation a potential breakthrough. Meanwhile, survivors' testimonies, when they exist, offer the most vivid details. Their accounts of abduction, flight, and fear reveal not only the brutality of Hansen's methods, but also the meticulous control he exerted over each hunt. They describe frozen forests, rivers that impede escape, trees that both conceal and trap, and the omnipresent shadow of Hansen tracking their movements. Their stories provide the investigators with context, helping them to understand the predator's psychology, his patterns, and his predictable behaviors in the wilderness. As the evidence mounts, law enforcement begins to piece together Hansen's dual existence. His bakery, once an innocuous fixture of the community, becomes a hub of interest. Surveillance, witness accounts, and cross-referencing missing women with Hansen's known locations reveal a chilling correlation. Investigators examine maps and photographs found at Hansen's cabin, connecting previous disappearances to specific forested areas, rivers, and isolated trails.
The realization crystallizes. The predator is not merely opportunistic. He is methodical, calculating, and deeply familiar with both the wilderness and the human psyche. The process of linking individual cases into a coherent narrative is painstaking. Detectives review timelines, re-interview witnesses, and cross-check reported sightings. Each missing person report becomes a piece of a larger puzzle. Each forensic detail, a thread leading toward the predator. The scale of the task is daunting. Decades of abductions, each executed with meticulous planning, hidden in the vast, indifferent Alaskan landscape. Yet through persistence and methodical investigation, the authorities begin to construct a map of terror, revealing both the scope of Hansen's crimes and the precision of his hunting methods. By the time investigators close in, the evidence is irrefutable. Photographs, maps, survivors' testimonies, abandoned tracks, and discarded items converge to identify Robert Hansen as the orchestrator of a decade-long reign of terror. The duality of his life, polite baker by day, predator by night, underscores the calculated patience with which he operated, and the meticulous nature of his planning ensures a chilling clarity. The predator's intelligence and obsession elevated his hunting to a near-scientific methodology.
The forest is silent, yet every sound screams danger. Snow crunches underfoot, each step announcing presence. Wind whips through the trees, carrying scents, masking others, and creating illusions of movement. For Hansen's victims, the wilderness is both barrier and battlefield. Every step forward is a battle against exhaustion, frostbite, and paralyzing fear. Every rustle of a branch, every snap of ice underfoot becomes a potential harbinger of death. One young woman, barely 18, stumbles through snowdrifts, clothing soaked, boots heavy with ice. She is disoriented, unsure of direction, and haunted by the echo of a rifle shot fired moments before. Her chest heaves, lungs burning in the freezing air, but she presses on, knowing that stillness guarantees capture. Hansen, patient and precise, follows at a distance, observing, tracking, calculating. His presence is an invisible weight, an omnipresent shadow guiding fear, manipulating movement, and stripping away hope. Another victim hides behind a snow-laden spruce, pressing herself into the cold ground. Frost forms on eyelashes and eyebrows, skin numbed by exposure. Every instinct screams to move, but moving risks discovery. She watches as the shadow of Hansen's figure passes, barely visible through dense trees. The rifle, once fired as a warning, remains in his hands, a constant threat. Minutes stretch into hours, the forest compressing time, heightening fear. Her mind cycles through survival strategies: follow a stream, head downhill, hide in a ravine. Every choice carries peril. Every decision could mean life or death. Hansen's psychological manipulation is relentless. He alternates proximity and absence, shooting near but not at, whispering through distance, or leaving subtle signs of his presence: a boot print, a bent branch, a disturbed snowdrift. The victim's mind begins to fracture under the pressure. Exhaustion, fear, and isolation erode confidence and clarity. Yet resilience surfaces in fleeting moments. A hidden path is discovered, a shallow river is used to mask tracks, and a fallen tree provides momentary shelter. These small acts of ingenuity, courage, and survival are the seeds that will carry some through to rescue. Some victims are captured, bound, and released multiple times. The pattern is chilling. Physical restraint, forced navigation through dangerous terrain, and psychological terror designed to break resistance and assert dominance. The forest becomes a maze.
the snow a trap, and the predator's presence a constant reminder of vulnerability. Victims recount freezing nights curled under snow-covered roots, hearing distant sounds of movement, rifles firing as warnings, and the slow, omnipresent stalking that makes the forest feel alive with threat. One particularly harrowing escape unfolds along a frozen river. Exhausted and bleeding from minor injuries, the victim uses her knowledge of terrain to mislead Hansen. She jumps between ice floes, splashing frigid water over tracks, masking her scent, and slipping silently into underbrush. Hansen follows, but miscalculates a bend in the river, allowing the victim to gain distance. She collapses on the bank, shivering uncontrollably, lungs burning, heart racing. Each step of this escape is etched into memory, a calculated balance of fear, determination, and desperate intuition. In some cases, survival comes through interaction with locals or chance encounters. A lost victim stumbles onto a logging road, flagging down a passing vehicle, breaking through isolation into human contact. Others endure days in the wilderness, following instinct, observing predator behavior, and exploiting momentary lapses in Hansen's control. Every story is a testament to resilience, courage forged in terror, ingenuity emerging from desperation, and the unyielding will to survive despite unimaginable odds. Hansen's cruelty is heightened by his intimate knowledge of the terrain. He anticipates hiding spots, paths to water, and locations that amplify exhaustion or fear. Yet the combination of human ingenuity and instinct occasionally counters his precision. Survivors' resourcefulness, hiding under snow-laden branches, masking tracks with river currents, and exploiting lapses in vigilance, turns his calculated terror into temporary vulnerability, creating moments where escape, though harrowing, becomes possible. By the end of these sequences, the forest has become a crucible. Victims emerge physically battered, mentally scarred, yet alive. Their survival provides investigators with critical insight into Hansen's methods, patterns, hunting grounds, psychological manipulation, and the lengths of his predatory obsession. Each escape reinforces a chilling truth. The predator's power was immense, but human resilience, courage, and ingenuity could pierce even the most meticulously planned system of terror.
Beneath the polite exterior of Anchorage's baker lies a mind meticulously structured around control, power, and compulsion. Robert Hansen's childhood, though outwardly unremarkable, reveals seeds of his later obsession. Born into a household marked by neglect and emotional absence, he experienced early feelings of invisibility, rejection, and isolation. These formative experiences shaped his understanding of relationships, dominance, and the need to assert control over others, particularly those he perceived as vulnerable. Hansen's fascination with hunting began innocuously: small game, birds, and later, larger animals. He learned to track, anticipate behavior, and exert power over prey. Over time, this skill set became a psychological framework he would later apply to humans. Hunting was no longer a pastime. It was a template for dominance, a means to transform fear, control, and pursuit into a systematized practice. His empathy, if ever present, eroded, replaced by an analytical, almost scientific understanding of predation. During his abductions, Hansen's mind operates like a predator's laboratory. Every action is deliberate, every choice calculated, each step in the forest a test of endurance, obedience, and terror. He observes reactions with cold precision: the widening of eyes, the shiver of exhaustion, the subtle hesitation at a forked path.
He notes weaknesses, adjusts pursuit strategies, and manipulates the environment to amplify fear. His enjoyment is not casual. It is methodical, derived from exercising absolute control over another human being. His obsession escalates over years. Initially, he selects women opportunistically, but over time, the pattern becomes ritualized, planning routes, stocking equipment, cataloging photographs, and mapping the wilderness. Each hunt reinforces his compulsion, validating his sense of power, while the forest becomes a private stage for his calculated exercises in domination. This obsession is intertwined with control, sadism, and meticulous record-keeping, evidence of a mind that merges predatory instinct with obsessive precision. The psychological profile of Hansen is chilling in its clarity. He exhibits traits of narcissism, sadistic obsession, and meticulous planning. His ability to maintain a dual life, the polite, unassuming baker in public, the predator orchestrating hunts in secret, is a testament to his cognitive compartmentalization. Every detail in his cabin, every item used for abduction, every photograph and map reinforces the systematic nature of his obsession. The forest, the snow, and the frozen rivers are instruments of terror, extensions of his calculated control. Flashbacks to childhood experiences offer insight into his compulsions. Rejection, invisibility, and early failures are refracted into a need to dominate. The animals he hunted became proxies for control, their predictable patterns teaching lessons he would later apply to humans. Every failure, every moment of vulnerability experienced in youth is transformed into precision, patience, and ruthless efficiency. The hunter's mind is formed, calculating, remorseless, and capable of extreme cruelty cloaked in normalcy. Hansen's escalating obsession is mirrored in the survivor's narratives. The terror he inflicts is not merely physical. It is a reflection of the predator's mind at work, each action designed to strip away autonomy, induce fear, and assert psychological dominance. The forest becomes a laboratory, the prey a subject, and each hunt an experiment in control. His meticulous record-keeping, photographs, maps, and notes demonstrate a mind obsessed with documentation, analysis, and repetition. By the time investigators close in, Hansen's inner world is fully revealed. A predator who transforms trauma, obsession, and compulsion into a systematic method of terror. Each hunt, each abduction, each act of stalking is informed by both environment and psychology. He is not impulsive, he is deliberate. Not chaotic, he is precise. Not ordinary, he is a predator whose dual life underscores the chilling capacity for human cunning, cruelty, and control.
The net closes slowly but inexorably. Years of careful investigation, witness statements, forensic analysis, maps, and survivor accounts finally converge to identify Robert Hansen as the predator haunting Anchorage's edges and the surrounding wilderness. Each thread of evidence, painstakingly gathered, reveals a chillingly precise pattern: the timing of disappearances, the geographic clustering, and the predictable hunting grounds. Hansen, meticulous as ever, is unaware that his own obsession with documentation has provided the investigators with the blueprint needed to end his reign. When law enforcement confronts him, the contrast between his public and private personas is stark. To the world, Hansen is the soft-spoken baker, polite and composed, a fixture of ordinary life. Behind closed doors, the evidence of years of calculated predation, photographs, maps, lists, and hunting notes paints a chilling picture of obsession and cruelty.
every detail meticulously maintained for his own perverse satisfaction, now serves as undeniable proof of guilt. The courtroom becomes a stage for the culmination of years of terror and trauma. Survivors testify, recounting the chilling sequence of abductions, the frozen forests, the relentless stalking, and the psychological manipulation that characterized Hansen's hunts. Their voices, tinged with fear, resilience, and courage, convey not just the brutality of his acts, but also the depth of human endurance. Photographs, maps, and forensic evidence lay bare the calculated nature of each crime, emphasizing the predator's methodical, obsessive precision. The prosecution presents a meticulous narrative, tracing Hansen's methods, hunting patterns, and psychological profile. They demonstrate how he selected victims, transported them into isolation, and orchestrated hunts designed to instill terror and assert dominance. The court is shown the duality of his life: the baker who kneaded dough by day and stalked humans through snow-laden forests by night. The evidence is overwhelming and the pattern undeniable. Hansen's calm, measured demeanor in court contrasts sharply with the harrowing accounts presented, heightening the chilling realization of his dual existence. Sentencing is decisive. Multiple life terms ensure that Hansen can never harm another human being. The judge emphasizes the meticulous planning, the prolonged terror inflicted, and the psychological cruelty inherent in Hansen's crimes. The courtroom, once a vessel of fear and revelation, becomes a symbol of justice and closure, both for survivors and for a community traumatized by the predator who once moved unseen among them. Even in incarceration, Hansen's legacy endures. His crimes serve as a case study in predator psychology, forensic methodology, and investigative persistence. Law enforcement agencies continue to study his patterns, mapping behavioral clues and environmental strategies to better understand how predators exploit both isolation and human vulnerability. Survivor stories provide insight into resilience, courage, and ingenuity, offering lessons in human endurance and the capacity to survive against overwhelming odds. The wilderness, once a theater for Hansen's hunts, remains silent. Rivers run cold, forests stretch endlessly, and snow blankets the landscape in quiet indifference. Yet the echo of terror lingers, a testament to the meticulous cruelty and obsessive precision of one man's capacity for control. The survivor's courage, the investigator's patience, and the public reckoning all stand as enduring reminders of the human response to evil: vigilance, resilience, and justice. Robert Hansen, the butcher-baker, is gone from the streets and forests of Alaska, but his story endures as a chilling example of predation, duality, and obsession. The forests that once concealed him now stand as witnesses to the meticulous planning, psychological terror, and human resilience that defined one of America's most notorious and calculated serial killers.
If you enjoyed today's video, we thank you very much. Please like and subscribe to Rare Breed Chronicles. And let's dive into another story that defies the ordinary.